Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob. Yes, it's me. Honestly, it's me. Yeah, I shaved a little bit and got a haircut, but it's still me. And you got Gas, the morning edition. Good morning, everybody. Gas, the Great American Auto Scene since 1990. Your source for automotive information, trivia, and fun facts. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit on the small side, the Mini. Now, the Mini, as many people know it today, is a cool looking and driving front wheel drive, kind of a sports coupe, if you would. Well, the first Minis actually came out in 1959, and it was Britain's answer to the Volkswagen. Yes, it was. It was along the same lines. Small, compact car, good on fuel mileage, able to carry at least 4 people, and the Mini did fit that standard. Difficult, but it did. The Mini was small inside and was front-wheel drive, contrary to Volkswagen's rear-wheel drive platform and the rear-wheel drive platform of just about every other car around at the time. The Mini also used some unconventional methods. For example, it didn't have a typical suspension. It had rubber blocks. Bounced a little harsh riding. Handled great, though, if you push the car. Now, the BMW came out in 1959 and was sold as the Austin 7, or Austin Mini, and Morris Mini. Yeah, it was. And they had real tiny motors. Back in the day when they first came out, they had less than 1 liter size air or water-cooled engines. The first Minis that came out had, well, let's go back. We'll find it here. Well, it's hiding from us. Well, not less than 948 cc's, 850 cc's are the first ones. So they're tiny motors, but again, you got to remember, this car was not designed for the U.S. market. It was not designed for the super highways we have or even had in 1959. It was designed for the small, compact European cities. And that's what it suited best. Now, it was also modified, hot rodded, if you will. Hey, it's a car. We hot rod cars, right? Well, John Cooper, a famous British driver, got involved with the Mini and made it something special. The Mini Cooper S, as it was called, John Cooper modified, and he was able to win numerous events and races with that car. 1275 cc's, 75 horsepower base, but after he modified it, a lot more horse pressure there. And he was very capable of winning events. Now, the little 2-door Mini, as it came out in 1959, was manufactured originally in Longbridge and Crowley plants in England, and the Victoria Park Zetland British Motor Corporation Australia factory in Sydney, Australia. It was manufactured in Spain, Belgium, Chile, Italy, Portugal, South Africa, Uruguay, Venezuela, and Yugoslavia. This car was a world-class machine. Now, notice they never said it was manufactured here in the United States. They were sold here, but in very limited numbers. Now, the first Mini that came out was a 2-door sedan-type vehicle. Sat 4 comfortable adults, small adults, comfortably. It's amazing how much room was actually in the car. Because of the front-wheel drive configuration, there was a lot of legroom. The floor was flat. It was easy to get in and out of for the most part. Again, small car, and as I said, it was designed for small cities. If you've ever been to Europe, and I got to go a little over a year ago, the roads are very narrow because when these roads were formed in the days of the growth of Europe, they were made for horse and buggies. Horse and buggies weren't very big. So the roads are narrow and small. Hi, Nigel. How are you doing this morning? So the Mini was great for that purpose, and it did quite well. Now, there were many variations of the Mini. Initially, the first 2-door sedan came out, but then they came out with the estate car, or we called it a station wagon. They had a pickup truck, a van. There was a Mini Moke, and I got to drive one of those. They were kind of neat. It was kind of like a dune buggy, Jeep-like vehicle. It was very low, very small, open, and fun. Hey, Murray, how are you doing this morning? All right, so the Mini has had many different configurations. As I said, the GAAS was a sportier version, and it was very successful in rallies, and the Monte Carlo rally, for example, where it won 64 through 67, although the 1966 Mini was disqualified because of too many front lights. Yeah, imagine that. Not because it did anything wrong. The lights weren't considered a legal combination, but they did win it, and Minis were great little machines. I drove one once, and it was a right-hand drive. It made it quite interesting for me. You sit really low, you're in a really small car, and if you're sitting on the right-hand side of the car, being an American and driving cars that are normally left-hand drive, it's quite unique. You tend to hug the right side of the road. Now, in the early 1990s, BMW purchased the rights to Mini and Rover and the whole group. Now, it's gone through a number of different hands over the years. BMW, though, has now made it the most successful because the Mini sells more now that BMW has owned it than it did in its original configuration, even though it was around for quite a few years. So in 1994, BMW acquired the whole Rover group from the British Aerospace Company that had bought it from British Leyland, who had gotten it from British Motor Corporation, who had got it from, well, that's another story altogether. But BMW, with its other affiliates, wanted a small car, something below the BMW 1 Series cars. They wanted a compact, a small car. This is definitely a small car, and it's compact. Now, I got to drive one a while back, and I was very impressed with it. However, the seating position for me wasn't quite optimal in that when I set the steering wheel where I was comfortable, I couldn't see the tack. And it's right in front of the steering wheel. As a matter of fact, it's connected to the steering column. So when you change the angle of the steering wheel, you actually change the angle that you view the tack. And in my case, the steering wheel now blocked vision of the tack. It does hold true to its original configuration. It's still front-wheel drive. It looks very much like an updated version of the original Minis. Now, the original Mini was in production through 2000, although they didn't come here into the States after the early 60s, and probably because of the emissions and crash standards that came into play here in the United States. The Mini could not meet them under any circumstances in its original configuration. BMW and current technology has been able to make that car meet the U.S. standards, and we've got it, and it's cool. Now, I've thought about getting one, but it's small, and I needed a little bit more room. Power-wise, they are amazing. Now, you talk about the Minis as they've changed. BMW's design is what won after 15 different groups got together to come up with the new Mini design. BMW's in-house design was the winner, and I think I agree. They did come up with the best design, and it has gone on. They've modified it again. A few years ago, when they upgraded the Mini, it got bigger taillights, bigger headlights. It's a bigger car. It's wider. It's taller. Now, it looks pretty much like what it replaced, which was pretty much like what it replaced, but it's bigger. I like the second generation. I like the first BMW version of the Mini. That is, to me, the best looking of the new versions. Now, the current one does have bigger taillights, making it better for visibility. It is roomier inside. I don't carry people. I don't care. But you know what? It is still a popular car. Now, there are different versions of this. Now, since 2001, there have been variants. The Cooper, that's the other thing. They didn't just call it a Mini. It's called a Cooper. It's a Cooper S or a John Cooper Works. Now, I saw a very limited edition numbered car the other day with the supercharger. 200 plus horsepower. Baby, that thing's lightweight and it moves out with a 1.6 liter version 4-cylinder engine over 200 horsepower. It is a neat looking little car. We've got convertibles now. We've got the Clubman. We've got a whole variation of the Mini 4 doors. There's 2 different versions of that. Now, they tried to bring in a panel. I loved it. I thought it was great. Apparently, it didn't go over real well, and the commercial businesses who they geared it for really didn't think it was effective enough. It was just too small. So the Mini Clubman came out, and it has an estate version, which is a station wagon here in the States. There's a Mini Convertible. It started in 2009. There's the Mini Countryman. Okay, 2010. It was kind of a four-door sedan type thing. And outside the United States, it's available with a diesel engine. Not much performance, but man, the fuel mileage must be great on that. There's the Mini Cooper Coupe. And to me, it's just like, why? And it's ugly. Now, it was revealed in 2011 as a two-seat Mini. Okay. Went 0 to 60 in 6.4 seconds, had a top speed of 149 miles an hour, and it's powered by a turbocharged 208 horsepower, 1598cc engine. There's the Mini Roadster, convertible as we call it, the Mini Paceman. The Paceman is a three-door kind of a crossover. It doesn't know what it is, so it's crossed over. It was supposed to be launched in 2013 in the U.S. There's the Mini Hatchback. Okay, functional. Now, the engine choices. Currently, you've got the 1397cc base engine from 2009 through 2010. There was another 1397cc from 2007. They put out about 94 horsepower and 74 horsepower, respectively. But then you get the turbocharged and the supercharged versions, the S's. And these put out some impressive horsepower. Now, the one I drove was 175 horsepower, and it was more than enough. I'll tell you what, it was very, very impressive. But now you get the John Cooper Works Challenge car, 208 horsepower. Whew, this baby moves. Now, there's diesel engines as well. We don't get the diesel in the United States. It's too difficult to certify for emissions. But in Europe, it's just fine. Now, the original Minis that came out were powered by much less of a motor. And I'm trying to find that information here right now. But some history on the current one. Before BMW's ownership, the traditional Mini had been a Longbridge plant product in Great Britain. And it was built until BMW took over production in March of 2000. Now, the original Mini stayed pretty much the same. The first ones are easy to tell. They had very small taillights and sliding side windows for the passenger and the driver's door. Later on, they went to roll-up windows, but this helped keep the weight down. It also wasn't the most efficient, but it worked, and that's why they did it. Now, the original Mini, to me, is still a great-looking little car and a great car, but it's not as sophisticated. The original Mini, as I said, didn't have a traditional suspension. It had rubber blocks. The base engine was an 848cc motor. Then they went to 997, 998, 1071, and 1275 cc's, all the BMC A-series motors. They had a 4-speed without synchro initially, and they called this the Magic Wand transmission because I believe the shifter came out of the dashboard, much like a Citroen. They had a 4-speed with synchros later on, and they even had an automatic transmission introduced in 1965. There was the van, the station wagon, and a longer wheelbase vehicle, the pickup truck, the van, and the station wagon or the estate. Rex says, I first thought younger guy was filling in for me. Yeah, it's amazing what a little shave and a haircut will do. Now, the original Mini, as I said, came out in 1959. The final of the original Mini body style was 2000. And it marked the end of the British-designed Mini Coopers. After BMW took over, they wanted something a little bit more updated and something that would bridge the gap between the entry-level cars and the BMW 1 Series. And it worked. It did. And the Mini Cooper lives on, or the Mini lives on. And it just, again, it depends on how you remember the Mini. To me, it was the Morris and the Austin Minis. That's what they were when they first came out. The Cooper was a performance one. I remember a guy in high school had one of these. 10-inch wheels. They were tiny. But he had these super wide Bridgestone tires on it. The thing was a roller skate. And he drove it like one, too. He was a madman. They had what was called, I said, rubber blocks. They were rubber cones. They were called hydrolastic. It was a cost-saving measure, but it was simple, and it worked. All right, that's the Mini Cooper. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got Gas, the morning edition. It's Friday. I got a bunch of things to do around the house. I know you've got things to plan for the weekend. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again on Monday when you get Gas, the morning edition. I'm Hot Rod Bob. Gas, the Great American Auto Scene. Since 1990, your source for information and trivia about the automobile. Hey, remember, Gas is part of Two Tired Guys Productions. Check out our latest shows on YouTube, Apple iTunes, and more. Two Tired Guys Productions, talking about cars and gas, the Great American Auto Scene. You have a great day. Remember, Gas brought to you by Service Tech and Valley Head Service. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You have a great day and a great weekend, too. We'll see you on Monday.